Everybody, we are live. Welcome, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world and where you're joining us from. Welcome to this Prezi webinar. It's called Fall in Love with the Problem, Guidelines for Creative Problem Solving. Now, we obviously still have people joining us, so we'll give folks a couple of minutes to get settled. And whilst we do, I'll introduce myself. So my name is Spencer Waldron. I'm the Global Communications Director here at Prezi, and I'm based in the lovely Amsterdam. It's even sunny today. And I'm very excited because I have Ilan Smith with me here today. Ilan, whereabouts in the world are you joining us from?
How you doing, Spencer? I'm from South Africa.
From South Africa. Fantastic. So I'm going to tell you, go on.
I'm saying all the way at the bottom of Africa.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to give you a bit more information and an introduction to Ilan in a second. I just wanted to cover off a bit of housekeeping first. So yes, the clue is on the screen. We are definitely recording this session. So we'll record it and then we're going to email it to everybody afterwards. So don't worry about that. And if you want to ask a question about today's session, then you'll see in the Zoom window below, there's the Q&A button. So if you can try and keep questions for Ilan and today's presentation in that Q&A section, and then we can make sure those questions are answered at the end. And obviously the chat button that you'll see next to it, that's for everything else. So if you want to ask us a question behind the scenes or communicate with each other, then you can do that as well. So back to Ilan. That's why we're here today. It gives me a lot of pleasure to welcome Ilan with us today. He is a behavioral illusionist, mentalist, speaker, trainer, and entertainer, and has presented at Fortune 500 companies all around the world. And Ilan uses his creative problem-solving approach to create unique learning experiences that help us unleash our potential when we're dealing with business issues. So I'm definitely going to be paying attention today because it's going to help us think outside the box. So let's have a look at problem solving and how we can do it. So without further ado, I'm going to hand the floor over to Ilan, who is going to start today's presentation, which is called Fall in Love with the Problem, Guidelines for Creative Problem Solving. So enjoy, everybody, and Ilan, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And before we begin, just a little bit of fun, something cool.
In life, there are many, many magical things. You can create a beautiful world of magic, and the secret lies in one simple step. The concept of understanding how humans think, and then therefore creating a method that uses their own brain as a weapon against them. Watching a crowd, seeing how they enjoy it, seeing their face and their mouths gasp. All that matters is the excitement and the joy that I get from standing in front of a crowd and making them believe that anything is possible.
So we're back. Creative problem solving, what is it? So generally speaking, when I give talks and I like to explain things, I like to follow along with the idea. I like to talk about experiences, and I like to share stories, because stories put over the idea in a very clear and concise way. So to begin off with, the idea of what problem solving is, creative problem solving. Before we do begin though, I would like to show you a little bit of magic. To kick this off, I would like to show you something really interesting. Spencer, will you please bring someone up on stage, so to speak? Can we get someone to come join us up on stage? We have a couple of guys. Please please be aware that at no stage has anyone been set up. We are going to do something. The person who's going to be watching and experiencing the magic with me, it's going to be live for the first time, nothing set up in any way, shape or form like that. We're going to get someone to come and help us out.
Hi, Ilan, I'm here.
Hey, how are you?
Good, good. How are you doing?
Good, good. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Naba from the Prezi team. Now, Naba, please be honest. Have you and I ever met before today? Prior to the setting up, have you and I met before?
Nope, and I have no idea what's going to happen.
Good. Thank you very much. It's really important that everyone believes that and understands that, or else the next minute or two is going to be meaningless. So, Naba, I would like you to please go to a website, WikiCount. Use your phone so it's different on a different device to the way we are communicating. On your phone, go to WikiCount, please, and let me know once you are there.
All right, have it up.
So just so everyone knows what that is a Wikipedia affiliated page. It is the English article count of Wikipedia. Now, it's so interesting for people who enjoy numbers and stats and things like that. Wikipedia is a live encyclopedia and it's constantly changing. Anyone can edit and delete and add articles. So those numbers are constantly changing. So I'm going to open my calculator. Now, but on that screen, it says there, how many articles are there currently on Wikipedia right now, this second? It's usually about 6 million English articles. What's that number?
6,309,901.
Like that. 6,309,901. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Good. Now, watch. Times. Underneath that, there's another number. It says, on average, how many words per article? What is that number?
1,356.
Like that?
Yes.
Now, the reason why I'm doing this is purely for this purpose right now. Equals. There are over 8.5 billion words on Wikipedia right now. So I want you to understand how crazy this is. There's over 8.5 billion words. Now, but underneath that, it says visit Wikipedia or go to Wikipedia. Can you click on that?
Yes.
Cool. Now, I would like you to, you're going to, once that page is opened, I want you to click on the magnifying glass. And I want you to search for something on Wikipedia. So click on that magnifying glass, search for something. Try and make it something generic, because I might have social stalked you, online, socially, and try to find out your personality or something. So try and go for something more generic. I wouldn't just be able to guess.
Okay.
Okay, and then search for it and let me know once that works.
All right, it's up.
Okay, I want you to commit that to memory. We are going to refer to that as your search terminology. Okay? You're going to commit that to memory. Now, the second thing and the last thing is I want you to scroll down on that page. Scroll down, and I want you to stop anytime you want, and I want you to memorize one long word. One long word. 7, 8, 9, 10 letters or more. Make it difficult for me. Don't worry about the sentence. Don't have to put into context. Just memorize the long word. Have you got one?
Yes.
Good. So you've got two things in your mind. Search terminology and a random long word. Yes.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you. Put your phone away. We don't need it anymore. All I need is your eyes.
Okay.
As easy as that might sound. That's why we have you live like this. Now, I want you to think of your long random word, the long one. I want you to think of the first letter. Think of the first letter. Is the first letter a R? R for rabbit?
Yes.
R, yeah, it is. No.
It is.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
R. Think of the second letter.
Okay.
No, I'm not getting anything. Leave it for now. Move over to your search terminology. I will come back to that in a moment, but think of your search terminology now. It's a much shorter word. I want you to see the word. If it's a physical object, I want you to see, there we go. You can see a physical object there. You can see a physical object. I want you to put your hand down in front of you. I want you to hold, yes, you can hold the object. It's not very heavy. It's actually warm. It's warm, it's alive. I can also hear things. It's a very short word. Dogs, is that the word?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good, dogs. Now, please, before we continue, it's so important. You and I, please Please say it again. Have we ever met before?
No.
Did we plan any of this before?
No.
Good. I want you to think of that long random word. I got dogs. There's 6 point whatever million articles. I got dogs. There's 8.5 billion words on Wikipedia. You're thinking of that one long random word. The first letter is an R. I already told you that. It's an R. Think of the second letter. Oh, there we go. It's coming through. There we go. E. Don't say yes or no. Just play poker. Okay. R-E. Go to the next one. Next letter. Okay, go. Oh, I'm going to fall off the page. It is really long. Next letter. Next letter. Okay. My letters start big and go small. I didn't realize it was really so big. Here it goes. Naba, for the third time. Have we planned any of this?
No.
What was your word? Say it out loud.
Recommended.
Say it again.
Recommended. Oh my God.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for helping out. Now, because this is virtual and it's a webinar, we can't hear anyone else. So check, this is what I've got for you. Let me just find it quickly. Don't go anywhere. This is for you.
That's very cool.
Thanks so much for helping out. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm still shocked.
Good. Thank you. So, creative problem solving. What is creative problem solving? And like I said in the beginning, the way I like to explain it is through stories. So fall in love with the problem. The first story I'd like to share with you is about this gentleman on my right. If you don't recognize him, there's a good reason for that. His name was Ataturk. He was the first prime minister of Turkey. For some reason, I'm not sure why, but for some reason, he wanted to outlaw the wearing of veils. Hey, there we go. Someone does recognize him. Good. Ataturk, he wanted to outlaw the wearing of veils. And he realized, he knew that if he were to just come out with a rule and outlaw the wearing of veils, it would cause a lot of problems within his country. So he wasn't able to do that. So instead of outlawing the wearing of veils, what he decided to do was make it compulsory for prostitutes to wear veils. Problem solved, like that, right? So it's creative problem solving is being able to look at a problem from a different perspective, to be able to know that this is the certain outcome you would like, that you would like, and there's different ways how to get there. Now, why is creative problem solving so important? This gentleman on my right, I'm sure a lot more people would recognize him, Albert Einstein. So Albert Einstein was walking on the university campus grounds after giving his final year physics students their final paper. And he's walking with his assistant. And they've just finished their final year physics students, their final paper. And his assistant turns to him and says, yeah, Professor Einstein, is that not the same questions we gave the same students end of last year? And Professor Einstein says, yes, it is. And the assistant's like, but how can we do that? We gave the same students the same questions end of last year. It's the same questions. How do we do that? And Professor Einstein answered, the questions are the same, but the answers have changed. The questions are the same, but the answers have changed. If this was true in the 1940s, how much more so in 2021? That the problems are sometimes, they still exist, they're the same, but our solutions have changed. The questions are the same, but the answers have changed. Fall in love with the problem, understanding the problem, because the problems will be there continuously and different solutions will come up for it later on. So again, with those two stories in mind, often I get asked the question of, is creative problem solving, is it nature or is it nurture? Now, this guy you don't recognize because this was before I grew my beard. But no, that's not me. However, the reason why I've got this young gentleman here is because, is it nature or nurture, creative problem solving? And the answer is yes, it's both. Now, we're all born with a certain amount of gifted creative problem solving that we have. However, we can work on it, just like a physique. Irrelevant of what you're born with, if you go to the gym and you work on it, you can obviously get stronger, you can obviously get bigger. So yes, we are born with a certain level of creativity, but it's a muscle that we can work on and we can grow. So it's something very, very important to remember. And we'll go through later on about how we actually do that. So what is important to remember, because the questions are the same and the answers have changed, we understand that whatever it is that got us from A to B will not get us to C. Whatever got us from A to B, we need to change, especially in the world that we're living in now, we need to change because it will not get us to C. You know, when COVID hit and everyone's talking about how everything's changing, I was very much on the path of that nothing's really changed. The only thing that's changed is the velocity of the change. Life has always been changing. Life has always been moving. And if you had to speak to Kodak however many years ago prior to digital photography, and you had to tell them that this is the biggest change that the world's ever seen, they'll like laugh at you. If you had to speak to companies that will put out of business because of the internet and say to them that COVID has changed the world instantly for everyone, they'll laugh at you because their world was also changed. So change is constantly happening. Just the velocity of the change is the thing that changes. So whatever got us from A to B will not get you to C. What is the current status quo? Currently, how do people behave? And these stats are more true the bigger the organization that you're in. So it's been proven that 97% of people in big organizations, when they hit up with a problem, what do? 97% of people do the same thing they were doing before. They just do it more often or less often. Only 3% of people are able to do something different, are able to remind themselves and to notice that what I'm doing is not working, change what I'm doing. As Einstein said, the sign of insanity is doing the same thing over again and expecting different results. So 97% of people fall into that category. It is equivalent of hitting your head against the wall, and because the door's not opening up, you hit your head harder or softer, but you don't try another wall to find a door. So 97% of people do the same thing over and over again. 3% of people have the whereabouts within them to be able to do something different. And if those of you who noticed that little man, that's Pac-Man. That's not really 97%, that's just a little Pac-Man from years back. So 5 top tips. 5 tips to be able to understand how do we become better at creative problem solving? How do we learn how to look at things differently? 5 top tips. Now, before we begin with our 5 top tips, a little bit of magic I'd like to share with you. This magic, instead of just using one person, Naba, we're going to have everyone help out. That's right. You guys all the way at home, all over the world, are going to be able to help out with this magic. And the magic is going to happen on your screen. And this is how we're going to do it. So we have 12 different destinations here. We have a forest. It's a bit of a sparse forest. We have the beach. We have the desert. We have wildlife or Africa. I'm from South Africa. We have the pyramids. We have the Colosseum. We have the moon, the stars, the city, the mountains, France, Eiffel Tower, and the clouds. 12 different destinations. Now, what I would like you to do is this. These are our 12 different destinations. Put into a circle a clock. We're all going to start. We're going to choose a number between 5 and 15. Any number you would like between 5 and 15. As an example, if the number you chose was 6, you would start over here on your gears. You'll start on your gears and we will count, as the example, 6. We'll count 1 onto the first pink arrow, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you would land up in the desert. If my number was 9, I would start up over here on the gears again and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. I'd land up in the stars. Now it's your turn. Your number between 5 and 15, I want you to remember that number. Start on the gears and you count onto the pink arrow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and all the way around. Now keep your finger on the picture that you're on. Wherever you've landed up, remember that. And I'd like you to use that same number, whatever it was, and I want you to now count in the opposite direction. The same number in the opposite direction. Start. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So now you've all landed on a new. Keep your finger on that picture. I know that you are not on the beach. We'll get rid of that. And nor are you on the pyramids either. I don't think you're on the moon, and you're not on the stars either. Sorry, in the city. Now, wherever it is that you are, for the last move, I would like you to move 4 times in either direction. You can count 4. So wherever it is that you are, you move over to the next one. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you're on a new spot. Keep your finger on that spot. Memorize where it is that you are. I know that you are not in the mountains, and you're not in Rome either with the Colosseum. I think, even though you're all over the world in different countries, having chosen different pictures, I believe I found you. I believe you're in Africa with the wild. A beautiful leopard. Did I get it right? If I did, let me know about it in the question answers and all those cool things. Cool. The best part is this. You get to do that trick also. Now we're using Prezi. So afterwards, I'm going to share the presentation, those tricks, those slides with the guys at Prezi. And when they send out the email afterwards, you're going to get the slides and a little video from me teaching how it's done. It's really simple. You too can do it. Woohoo! So tip number 1, here goes. Tip number 1, creative problem solving, how to fall in love with a problem. Tip number 1 out of the 5, you need to be disagreeable with the status quo. Now, that doesn't mean you have to go out of your way to piss people off, excuse the language. So that doesn't mean you have to go out of your way to upset people. But it does mean that if you on purpose going out of your way to keep people happy, that's not going to work. You have to do what it is that you got to do and have my grandmother's way about her. No, that's not my grandmother. I kind of wish it was, but that's not my grandmother. You have to be able to do what it is that you have to do, irrelevant of the way people see it and irrelevant of the way people think of you. There's a famous story told about a lady in South Africa. She was 115 years old. 115 years old. And they asked her, what is the benefit? What are the great things to living to such a ripe old age, 115? And you know what she said? No peer pressure. No peer pressure. So obviously it's a joke, but it's true. If you have no peer pressure, if you have no pressure, it is a lot easier to get done what it is that you got to do. So again, you don't have to go out of your way to upset people, but you do have to go out of your way to do what it is that you got to do and not necessarily have to go around pleasing everyone. Step number 1, tip number 2. Tip number 2 is when it comes to high performance, specifically high performance, when it comes to high performance, know for a fact that the vast majority of people are always wrong. Think about that. That's pretty crazy. When it comes to high performance, the vast majority of society, of the world, the vast majority of people are wrong. Now, why? How can we say that? Well, if you look out into society, if you look out into business, if you look out into industry, if you look out into sports and entertainment and all those things, the vast majority of people are getting normal to average results. And if you want normal to average results, then do what everyone else is doing. However, if you want to exceed, that's why I said high performance. If you're looking for high performance, you should know for a fact, if you do what everyone else is doing, you will get what everyone else is getting, and that is normal to average results. Nothing wrong with that if that's what it is that you want. However, if you're striving for doing something more and something better, you know for a fact you cannot do what everyone else is doing because that won't get you to where you want to go. Now, for those of you who suffer from ADD like I do, well, I'm not ADD, I actually don't suffer from it. I quite enjoy it. It's my wife and kids who suffer from it. But for those of you who suffer from it and you're not really listening and you're trying to find Wally amongst all those people sitting over there on the screen, he's on the bottom right over there with the circle around him. If you see Wally, let me know. So Sure. If you do what everyone else is doing, you're going to get what everyone else is getting. And if you want to do that and within industry standards, industry norms, and that's fantastic. If you don't want to, then you know for a fact you cannot do what everyone else is doing. Tip number 3, we are running through these relatively quickly. Tip number 3. I'd like to talk a little bit about entrepreneurship. Now, entrepreneurs, people ask the question, I mean, it's a massive category and millions of books are out there about it, or millions, but tens of thousands of books are out there about it. The question is, or what I like to talk about is everyone else and an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur looks out into the world and sees the same world. How is it that they can focus on something different that allows them to see things differently? I'd like to explain this. So the human mind has in front of it, so to speak, in front of the brain, it has something called, so just to understand, so it's something that is like a sieve, and it allows information through that sieve. It's called a schema. Now that sieve or schema allows 110 units of computing power, so to speak, through any given second. 110 computing power units, if you want to call it that, through every second. So that means you cannot do more than that. You cannot, physically, you cannot think and be able to do more than those 110 units of computing power per second. So if it is that it's limited, your attention span is limited, what it is that you can do is limited. Therefore, you can either look out into the world and you can choose to win or you can choose to whine. You cannot do both. The vast majority of people look out into the world, and when they hit up with a problem and when they see something that they don't like, they whine about it and they complain about it. Very few people try to fix it. Very few people try to win. Very few people look out into the world and say, how can we make this better? How can we fix it? How can we make the world a better place? And when you do that, you're able to look out into the world from a completely different perspective and to be able to see things, problems that I can fix and problems that only I can fix. So choose one. You can either win or you can whine. You cannot do both. Choose wisely. Tip number 4. Tip number 4 is fall in love with the problem. Fall in love with the problem. Now, it's always been throughout history, even the word problem. People hate problems. They want solutions. Don't give me the problem, give me the solution. You know, everyone hates a problem. The truth is, if you were to look at problems differently, if you were to look at problems as something that is a challenge, something that is not necessarily to get off your desk and finished, is to understand the problem. Now, there are so many different benefits to falling in love with a problem. As an example, very often people solve for a problem and they're solving the wrong part of the problem. They solve it purely incorrectly, purely because they just didn't spend time with the problem. We've quoted Einstein twice already. I'll quote him a third time. It's pretty famous. Everyone knows that Einstein said, I mean, the time is debatable. People say it's different times, but he said if he was given an hour to solve a problem, he would use 55 minutes understanding the problem and 5 minutes solving it. Understanding the problem and the parameters and things around the problem and fully understanding the problem and people, because people, everything's done for people in the end. If once you understand that, it's far easier to solve the problem. So fall in love with the problem. The idea is a company. When a company comes up and they have their product and they have their solution to certain problems, they're so proud of their product, and they should be. But they keep on selling that same product out into the world for years and years on end, which very often later on causes what a good friend of mine, Rich Mulholland, calls a legicide. That the solution you're continuously pushing out into the world no longer exists. The problem has changed. Either the problem changes or people change or technology changes, and you are feeding the world a solution to a problem that either doesn't exist or has changed drastically, or the method through which you're serving it to the world, to your customers, has also changed. So when you fall in love with a problem and you understand the problem and people, and you can continuously every now and then go back and look back at that problem It makes it more real. And you can solve it again, and you can realize later on you have to shift and change how it is that you're solving your problem. So fall in love with the problem. That's my wife and I a couple of years back. No, I'm kidding. Tip number 5, this is my favorite of all tips, of pretty much all of them are. Tip number 5, the creative problem solving tip number 5 is see things from a different perspective. See things from a different perspective. So what do I mean? Sure. Often when people are solving problems, they're asking their friends and family and all that sort of stuff, or organizations and businesses are getting together and they trying to solve for certain problems. Very often, the people sitting in the room or the people that you're asking for advice from, you're all from the similar or the same walks of life. You all have very similar backgrounds and similar outlooks on life, and you're not going to get very many different opinions that way. You're not going to get answers from different angles. You need to surround yourself with, and on purpose, find people and befriend people who are of a different different age group, different race, different religion, different educational standards, people from different countries. When you surround yourself with people like this, then you start building up people that you can bounce ideas off, that come from different backgrounds and therefore see things differently, and therefore can tap into something that is different from the angle you're looking at it. If you're all looking from the same angle, it's pretty much useless. So one of the creative problem solving tips that we try and do is, when a group get together and you give it, let's say, half an hour in the beginning just to get out all different ideas, you don't tell people. But for the first 10 minutes, any idea that comes out in the first 10 minutes, you're not allowed to use. You're not allowed to use that idea, because that's all the stuff that sits in the front of your brain, so to speak. That's all the stuff that is the common answer. And if you use stuff that comes out in the first 10 minutes, it's generally your normal, average, general stuff. It's your industry standards, your industry norms, which pretty much means no one's bothered to work on it. So again, for the first 10 minutes of that process, get rid of those ideas. You're not allowed to use them. Again, surround yourself with, build up your team of people who look at the world from a different angle, different perspective, or bring people in who do that. Now, where do I get this from? David Copperfield, obviously being an illusionist, this is one of my heroes. David Copperfield, when he was interviewed one time, or many times actually, he said that when he was growing up within magic, he said he would never look into magic to get inspiration. He looked at all different art forms to bring in inspiration. He looked at all great dancers, all great singers. He looked elsewhere on purpose. He refused to look into magic to get his inspiration and get his ideas. Why? Like I said before, to look at things from a different perspective, to be able to come up with something that no one else is doing. And, you know, for however many years, Copperfield's been saying this, and the idea was that even if he fails dismally, he'll still be the best illusionist in the world. And I think with 21 Emmys, I think he's pretty much done that. That's myself and David, a little bragging rights. Met him in Vegas, went to one of his lectures, was really cool. Unfortunately, David's got his 21 Emmys. I currently have 0 Emmys to date, but we are working on that. So David Copperfield would look out into the world, into things that were different, and bring that into magic. Now, years ago, it used to be that when different industries and different businesses came up with a solution, very, very seldomly was it that one industry could borrow that, take that from that area, and then use it somewhere else. Everything used to exist in its own silo, so to speak. Everything used to exist separate from anything else. Few reasons. One is people didn't know what other industries were really doing. And number two is that people didn't understand how things worked. The truth is, you don't need to, that's, you know, a DeLorean, Back to the Future. Ooh, awesome car. I have that here purely because I actually want to show you inside a car, and I couldn't get inside the DeLorean's bonnet. So That was just to mention, great, completely off the topic, great Back to the Future fan. But understanding different ideas, we don't need to understand how something works. We need to understand that it exists and therefore we can use it. It's like little golden nuggets. If we understand what exists out in society and in different industries, we know that it is available for us to use. Other people can make it work for us. We need to know what is available and how to put things together from other industries into ours. It used to be before that things were, like I said, were in different silos, that things existed in its isolation. And very seldomly did ideas get moved across. That was then. Nowadays, it's very different. Nowadays, there's, as example, facial recognition. Facial recognition is used all over the world for many different things. One of them is obvious, payments, where you can look at something and your face is connected to your credit card and you can make payments this way. Another thing is they use the exact same nugget of facial recognition. They use it in cow farming, milk farming, because the facial recognition can recognize when the cow is not feeling well, and they become aware of it earlier, so they can treat the cow, and therefore milk production doesn't go down. So it used to be beforehand, you would only know the cow's not well when its production of milk has already started dropping. So the exact same nugget moves over from payments of facial recognition through to cow milk farming, right? Things can move from one industry over to the other. All you need to know is that it exists. Now, how do you know what exists? Well, there's many, many different things. Google is a fantastic resource. However, there's another one called Trend Hunter. Trend Hunter is awesome. Go on to trendhunter.com and thank me later. Trend Hunter produce about, or at least put up online, 100 to 150 new ideas every single day from different industries. Think about that. It's like, right? 100 to 150 different ideas every single day. These are not ideas that people have. That's a nice idea. These are ideas and concepts and things that are used in reality. Companies are using these ideas. And you can see what they are using, what exists, and think, how can I use that within my industry? How can I use that over here? Plug and play. The nugget exists. You need to know that it exists. And that's one of the ways to know it exists. Go into Trend Hunter, look at whatever industry you would like, whatever it is that interests you, and see what is coming out that is new and wonderful within that area. And good luck on that one. And please do thank me later. Enjoy that. So, why are these things so important? They're so important because there is a massive human flaw, which is called functional fixedness or object fixedness. It's got a few different names. What is it? The reason why this is so important is functional fixedness is when you see something and you only see you only see its usefulness in what it was created for. So, as an example, here's an example. If I gave you a little riddle or a little test, this is a famous, I think this is like the most famous one going around. You need to, that's a candle, there's matches, those are South African matches, line matches, and a thumbtack. You need to connect your candle to the wall and light it without burning down the house and without destroying the candle. How do you do that? Now, vast majority of people within the first 10 minutes cannot work it out. Kids work it out earlier, and that's a whole nother story why. But the reason why people can't work this out so easily is because of functional fixedness. However, if I were to give you the exact same question, but add on the side separate matches, it becomes a lot easier to solve. Still not easy, but a lot easier to solve. Why? Because you realize that if I've given you matches and I've given you a matchbox, then you realize the matchbox must be used for something else. When I gave you the matches in the box, you don't notice the box. You see the box as a superfluous, useless piece of something that's just there for logistical reasons, just to hold the matches. But it isn't used for anything. Now that it's separate, you realize the box is actually used for something. So you would use the drawer that comes out of the matchbox. You'll put the candle on top of the drawer. pin the drawer to a wall, and you're good to go. So object fixedness is when you see something for what it was created for only, or for what you saw, how you saw it being used for the first time only, and you don't realize how you can use that in other places. Malcolm Gladwell writes about this, the paperclip test. A lot of people talk about it. How can we use objects in different ways that will create a new use for it? That is trying to break object fixedness. Now, a bit of a recap. So, the R, we need to go out and look into the world and look from a different perspective. We need to circle ourselves with people who see the world differently, who see things differently to the way we do, have different opinions to what it is that we have. You can hear different opinions, you can respect different opinions, doesn't mean that you have to use them, but you need to hear them. You need to respect them honestly and truthfully so you can actually weigh them up and see if it's something that you could work with. So you have to look out into the world differently. The next thing is the little experiment going on right over here. Right? Experiment. So again, Malcolm Gladwell, just mentioned him. He talks about 10,000 hours. It's very famous. You all know it. That 10,000 hours, I think, is more for it's for your sportsmen. It's for your artists. It's for people that need to put 10,000 hours in to become proficient at something or become brilliant at it. However, within business, if you're going to try something for 10,000 hours, you're going to be out of business. Everything would have moved on already before you even finished your 7,000 hour. So it's not 10,000 hours, it's 10,000 experiments. And as you've all heard of a very famous saying, fall fast or fail fast, right? Test, see if it's going to work. Test, get rid of it. Test, get rid of it. Move on. Continuously test things. It's the only way you're going to know and realize if something works. Test it. So it's 10,000 tests, or not 10,000, but a lot of tests. Continuously go out of your way to see things differently and test. The bottom one, this one over here, there, that one, the pieces, the puzzle pieces, is the idea of knowing what nuggets exist and put them together, use them from one industry and move them over to yours. Put things together differently. Realize what exists, what's out there, go search and find out what people are doing, and realize how can we construct, how can we use that nugget, that idea within our industry. And lastly, the book, continuously learn. And it doesn't have to be a book, continuously learn, educate ourselves continuously. That means you can read, you can listen, you can watch. Nowadays we have, when I was growing up, we had something called Encyclopedia, which took up, the really lucky ones growing up, had something called Encyclopedia on the wall, which was a massive, like 20-something books, I can't even remember, books of information. And every year you used to get a new book with all the updates. And that was really expensive. So it was only the really lucky ones, that gifted ones, that were able to have these things in their home. Otherwise you went to a library or went to school. So nowadays you have 10 million times more than information, more than that, for free, in your pocket, constantly. So you can constantly educate yourself. There are beautiful, beautiful podcasts constantly going on in whatever it is that you're interested in. There are videos, there are books, there's free stuff, there's paid for stuff, there's a flow of information that you can continuously educate yourself for free, constantly. Look out into the world, continuously test things, put things together in a different way and in a new way, and continuously educate yourself, learn. Now, when we're solving problems, one of the most important questions that people always ask is, what are our givens? Now, I do apologize. This presentation should not have the man on our ladder just yet. But the idea is, pretend that man's not there. I'm just going to tell it to you so you'll understand what I'm talking about. So when people are solving for problems, they ask, what are our givens? And it's a very important question to ask. But more importantly is, make sure anything you think is a given, make sure it really, really is a given. Let me explain. my son asked me this question actually the one day sitting during breakfast. Asked me, if a man is climbing up a ladder and he falls off the ladder and lands on the ground and he doesn't hurt himself at all, nothing, no bruises, no pain, nothing, how's that possible? I never knew the answer. I couldn't get it. So the answer is the man's on the bottom rung, as you can see there. Now, usually when I give this over in talks, again, I apologize, the man should not have been on the bottom rung. Only afterwards, I then show you what the answer is. Vast majority of people, we're talking about like 80 to 85% of people don't know how it's possible, because if you fall off the ladder, you're gonna hurt yourself. They don't realize that he's on the bottom rung. They take for granted if someone is climbing up a ladder, they are up on top. So make sure your givens really, really are givens. And to start closing off, as Marcus Aurelius said, the Roman emperor, the object of life is not to side with the majority, but rather escape the ranks of the clinically insane. The majority, if you are doing what everyone else is doing, you're going to get what everyone else is getting, and that is average to normal results. And as Marcus Aurelius says, they're clinically insane. I didn't say it, he did. So I would like to share a little video with you to end off with. We were asked by a car insurance company in South Africa we created a online advert for them. We won an advertising award for this. I would like to share this video with you. I hope you enjoy it. It's a 1.5-minute video. It's in English, but there's some other African languages in there also, but you'll get the gist of it. It's pretty awesome. Enjoy.
SA crime statistics reveal a 14.5% increase in carjacking. Vehicle theft is currently at an all-time high.
Over 17,000 cars are affected monthly.
Inbrokens van voertuigen onlangs gestegen. Motorists are warned to be extra cautious. Over 500 vehicles are broken into every day. Abashayeli bayaxwayiswa ukuthi baqaphele mabashiya izimoto zabo.
Gauteng currently has the highest crime rates in South Africa. I've got a really special card for you. Now, to make it truly unique, what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to tear a corner off your card. So we know that this corner comes from that card. Can you please hold on to the corner for me? Just tight. Perfect. No question, that corner came from here, right? Hold on to a corner. 1, 2, 3. Good. So you got the corner and I've got the card. So now I've got the majority of the card and you've got the little corner. There goes. So your card goes into my hand. 3, 2, 1. Vanishes completely, not side pockets, not back pockets, completely vanishes. So while you were out, I got in. I did. And I can prove it to you. You're holding on to the proof right there. The rest of that card, check this out. Hands are empty. Open up, go to the front seat. And it fits. That fits perfectly.
Wow, that is amazing. Then
Unbelievable. Well done. Wow.
no,
I've got a really important question for you. Do you have car insurance? No. How do you feel knowing 70% of South Africans do not have car insurance? Wow, that's so scary. Because man, 70% of car owners in our country do not have insurance. No, that's a me too.
Thank you very much. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Spencer, we're back over to you.
Yes.
And just lead off with one of those. Please do get in touch. You can continue this conversation socially. You can snap scan. That's my Leaf link. LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all those wonderful things. Please do get in touch, and we'd love to hear your ideas and continue the conversation that way. Thank you, Spencer.
You are welcome. Thank you very much. That was super, super interesting. We have a few questions. So if anybody else have any questions, then please use the Q&A button and we'll try and get to them now. I wanted to actually start with a really amazing comment that came in from Will Klassen. I hope I'm saying that right. And he actually made a really great observation about you don't know what you don't know. So diversity may be the only way to generate those unknowable things. And I just wanted to pull that out as,
Thank you.
Have that
Yes.
diversity of people, thought, experience, I think is a big one.
Right. So actually, I like jokingly compare it to, it's so ironic that you're not wearing your glasses when you need to look for your glasses. So yeah, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, and I'm looking for my glasses more and more these days. Okay, there's another really great question from Lars Haug. He said, if possible, can you talk about any pattern interruption techniques?
Sure. So, no, I don't know any techniques. Again, there's Ellen Langer speaks about this. I would suggest search Ellen Langer up. ELLEN, Ellen Langer. She's a professor from, I think it's Harvard University. One of the biggest problems are, and again, this is you're looking for your glasses without wearing glasses, is that like my wife constantly tells me, Ilan, I need you to live in the moment. I need you to live, I need you to like focus now. The problem is you need to be in the moment to realize you need to be in the moment. So it is a very difficult thing. One of the biggest secrets that they keep on saying about this is the secret to thinking of something is to stop thinking. What does that mean? Is that, like, sounds all fancy, but what it really means is that 90-something% of your day is just by rote. Everything just happens. And the first time you actually want to think of something and you want to break away from just doing things the normal, natural way, you actually have to stop what you're doing and intentionally think of something, whatever it is that you want to think of. Why is it this way? It's because, people joke about, or when I was at school, people used to joke about, I can see you thinking because smoke's coming out your ears. The truth is, when you think, it does take a lot of energy, a lot of brain power to actually think. It's effortful, and humans are generally lazy and would do things as simple and easily as possible. And therefore, most of our day is run by rote. We need to actually intentionally try to stop that. To be able to then think of what it is that we're thinking of. The human brain is only able to hold one thought at any time. As powerful as our human brains are, which is extremely powerful, we can only think of one idea at any given time. So it is a difficult thing to have to stop that pattern. It's like holding something and then someone else throws something to you. You have to drop the one thing to be able to catch the other. You can't hold both.
It reminds me of something I was taught years ago, and we're talking 20 years ago, about if you write down the rules that are normally associated with that and then break them. So if, for example, like you're working for a shampoo company, one of the rules is shampoo always comes in a bottle. So then say, okay, it's no longer allowed to come in a bottle. And that then opens the brain up to like, okay, maybe it's in a toothpaste tube or something like.
Right.
But I think, you're right. It's how do you get yourself out of that normal way of thinking about things? One
of the things that we talk about often when we work with companies is we take one of their funnels, whatever it is, one of their systems, and you write down and you draw out each part of that system from beginning all the way through to the end. And you think of each one individually and see how can we do that differently, or can we leave that where it is right now? Is it running perfectly? Can we maybe change it? Two last things. As an example, you say, whatever you do, do not think of a pink elephant jumping up and down, singing happy birthday. Now, the only thing you're thinking of is that pink elephant jumping up and down and singing happy birthday. So it's the intentional thing is to on purpose stop thinking of something and then try and move it over to something else.
Cool. We have a question from Will, who gave us the diversity insight as well. He says, besides Google, what about nature around us can we use as a source of newness for us? Or is nature a given?
So if you're able to do that, true innovators within history and all those people, as you're talking about all the really greats, they were able to go into nature and see things and got the inspiration from all of those beautiful places. Unfortunately, I'm not able to do that. I've tried. It doesn't work for me. If that works for you, then you're really gifted and lucky.
Okay, so we're coming up on the top of the hour, and I want to respect people's time. So thank you ever so much for being with us today, Ilan. That was a really, really interesting session. We will definitely send the replay or the recording out to everybody afterwards, together with some other goodies from you and from us. So yeah, thank you everybody for giving us some of your precious time. I'm always highly appreciative of it. Is there any last words from you, Ilan, before we call it a day?
As much as possible, try to go out into the world and fix things. Don't whine about everything. Don't be like me. I whine a lot. Thank you very much. I really appreciate everyone's time, and everyone's time is very precious. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. Please do get in touch via all these social things. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, everybody. Really enjoyed being here with you, and see you again next time.